Summary Overview, Chapter 2, Expedient Methods, Section 1, Paragraphs 1 to 22. Addressing Shariputra, Shakyamuni Buddha reveals that the Buddha applied the expedient methods to teach according to different individuals and circumstances. Examples of the expedient methods used in his teaching were the parables, similes, metaphors, and reasoning of causes and conditions. He then reveals the 10 factors of the ultimate Dharma attained by all Buddhas. Key messages. From a pedagogical perspective, the expedient methods are the tools applied to ensure people with varying natures, desires, and capacities are able to understand the teaching of the Buddha Dharma. The 10 factors are the workings of the Dharma of cause and effect. At that time, the Bhagavath rose serenely from his samadhi and spoke to Shariputra. The wisdom of all Buddhas is infinitely profound. The door to this wisdom is difficult to understand and difficult to enter. None of the Shravakas or Prayika Buddhas is able to readily comprehend it. Why do I say so? Because it is difficult to understand the intention of the Buddhas in expounding the Dharma according to different individuals and circumstances. These Buddhas are universally renowned for their affiliation with hundreds of thousands of millions of billions of other Buddhas. They are also eminent for their diligence and courage in the practice of the immeasurable Buddha dharmas, not to mention their victories in attaining the profound and unprecedented Dharma. O Shariputra! Ever since my attainment of Buddhahood, I have used various methodologies to extensively expound the Dharma. Some of these methods include explanation via reasoning of causes and conditions, as well as similes, parables, and metaphors. In essence, I use countless expedient methods to skillfully lead and guide living beings to discard their attachments and obsessions. Why do I teach using different teaching devices? Because the Tathagata is fully empowered with the insight, wisdom, and paramitas of expedient methods. O Shariputra! The wisdom of the Tathagata is infinitely profound and immeasurably effortless. His power, his fearlessness, his meditation, his samadhi, and his emancipation have enabled him to enter deep into the boundless realms to completely attain the unprecedented Dharma. O Shariputra! The Tathagata is able to apply a myriad of differentiations to skillfully teach the various doctrines. His soothing words and gentle voice uplift the hearts of people. O Shariputra! In essence, the Buddha has successfully accomplished the infinitely boundless and unprecedented Dharma. O Shariputra! I will stop here and say no more. This is because the Dharma attained by the Buddha is the foremost, exceptionally rare, and difficult to comprehend. Only among Buddhas can the true aspects of the Dharma be fully grasped. The Dharma consists of such an appearance, such a nature, such an entity, such a force, such an action, such a cause, such an environment, such a result, such an effect, and such a coherent consistency from the beginning to the end. Thereupon, the Bhagavath, wishing to reiterate his meaning, proclaimed in stanzas. The hero of the world is inconceivable. Among the heavenly gods and humans, or even all living beings, none is able to understand the Buddhas. None is able to gauge the extent of the power of fearlessness, samadhi, emancipation, and all other attributes of the Buddhas. Under the countless former Buddhas, I have completely practiced the way. The profound, exquisite, and magnificent Dharma. The Dharma that is difficult to encounter and difficult to understand. Having pursued these practices for immeasurable millions of kalpas, I have completely awakened to the insight and wisdom to achieve the fruit at the sanctuary of enlightenment. Only I and Buddhas in the 10 directions can fully grasp the meanings of various natures and forms. To attain such great fruit of rewards, it is difficult to unravel the Dharma. For words fall silent and still before it. Among all other living beings, none is able to comprehend it, except the many bodhisattvas, who are firm and formidable in the power of faith. Even people such as the multitudes of Buddha's disciples, who have given offerings to many Buddhas. who have all their imperfections eliminated, dwelling in their final rebirth. Still, they have inadequate power to perceive the Dharma. Even if all the worlds were replete with wise people, like Shariputra, who have depleted all their mental capacities to contemplate, still, they are unable to perceive the Buddha wisdom. Even if all the 10 directions were replete with wise people like Shariputra, and the rest of the other disciples, ubiquitous in the 10 directions, who have depleted all their mental capacities to contemplate, still, they are also unable to perceive. Even if the Prayika Buddhas of keen wisdom, immaculate and in their final rebirth, ubiquitous in the 10 directions, as numerous as bamboo trees in grooves, even if they were to unite with a single mind, for billions of infinite kalpas, hoping to ponder the true wisdom of a Buddha, still, they are unable to perceive in the least. Even if the novice bodhisattvas, who have given offerings to countless Buddhas, who have mastered the intrinsic meanings of many doctrines, skillful in the preaching of the Dharma, even if they were ubiquitous in the 10 directions, as plentiful as rice, hemp plants, bamboos, and reeds, were to ponder and contemplate together, single-mindedly using their sagacious wisdom, for as numerous kalpas as the Ganges' sands, still, they are unable to perceive the Buddha wisdom. Even if the bodhisattvas as numerous as the Ganges' sands, who have reached the stage of non-regression, were to ponder together single-mindedly, still, they are also unable to perceive. O Shariputra! Let me reiterate this. I have already fully attained the immaculate, unfathomable, profound, subtle, and marvelous Dharma. Only I am able to perceive the truth of all phenomena, as do all Buddhas in the 10 directions. O Shariputra! You should know. There are no differences in the Buddha words. Hence you should develop the immense power of faith in the Dharma expounded by the Buddha. The Bhagavath has long expounded the doctrines, and wishes to reveal the ultimate truth now. I say to the multitudes of Shravakas and Prayika Buddhas that I will liberate them from the bondage of suffering, and enable them to attain nirvana. The Buddha, through the power of expedient methods, has revealed his teachings in 3 different vehicles, so that all living beings with different attachments are able to gain release from the shackles. Summary Overview, Chapter 2, Expedient Methods, Section 2, Paragraphs 1 to 10. Shariputra entreats Shakyamuni Buddha to expound the Dharma to the assembly for the first time. At that time, among the great assembly, there were immaculate Shravakas such as Ajnata Kondinya and others, about 1,200 of them in total. In addition, there were monks, nuns, lay male disciples, and lay female disciples who had conceived the desire of becoming Shravakas or Prayika Buddhas. Each of them thought, why does the Bhagavath so earnestly praise the expedient methods? Why does he say that the Dharma attained by the Buddha is infinitely profound and difficult to understand to the extent that it is beyond the reach of Shravakas and Prayika Buddhas? If the Buddha teaches the meaning of the one single way of emancipation, then we should be able to attain nirvana once we obtain the Dharma. But now, we are uncertain about the direction of his intention. Meanwhile, Shariputra sensed the doubts in the minds of the 4 groups. As he himself also had not fully grasped the meanings, he proceeded to ask the Buddha, O Bhagavath, what is the reason for earnestly praising the expedient methods and the profound Dharma that is exquisitely wonderful and yet difficult to understand? I have never heard about this teaching from the Buddha before. Now that the 4 groups are perplexed, we entreat the Buddha to enlighten us. Will the Bhagavath please explain the rationale for the earnest praise of the Dharma that is the profound, exquisitely wonderful, and yet difficult to understand? Thereupon, Shariputra, wishing to reiterate his question once more, asked in stanzas. O the Son of Wisdom! The holy, great sage! At long last you have expounded this Dharma. You have attained the power of fearlessness, samadhi, meditation, emancipation, and all other attributes. No one has been able to ask about the extraordinary Dharma. A Dharma that is attained at the sanctuary of enlightenment. You say, my intention is difficult to surmise. Yet no one questions me. Without being asked, you expounded it, praising the path you have walked, and the exquisitely wonderful wisdom that all Buddhas have attained. The arhats who are immaculate, and those who seek nirvana, have now fallen in the net of bewilderment, wondering why does the Buddha expound the teaching. Those who seek to become Prayika Buddhas, the monks and nuns, heavenly gods, dragons, demons, and spirits, as well as Gandharvas and others, exchange looks of bewilderment, gazing upon the most honorable of humans. They wonder, what is the reason for this? We entreat the Buddha to explain this for us. Of all Shravakas, the Buddha said, I am the foremost in wisdom. Yet even with my wisdom, I am perplexed, puzzled, and perturbed, wondering, is this the ultimate Dharma? Or is this the way or the path for achieving it? We are your children, born from your sermon, pressing our palms and peering upward. We wait and wish that you could describe the details for us, using your delicate and delightful voice. Heavenly gods, dragons, spirits, and others, as innumerable as the sands of the Ganges. Bodhisattvas seeking to become Buddhas, numbering 80,000 of them. And the holy kings of wheel turning, coming from millions of billions of lands, have all pressed their palms with piety, wishing to hear the perfect path. Summary Overview, Chapter 2, Expedient Methods, Section 3, Paragraphs 1-8. Shariputra entreats Shakyamuni Buddha to expound the Dharma for the second and third time. At that time, the Buddha replied to Shariputra, Stop, stop. Speak no further. If I were to explain this matter, all heavenly gods as well as humans will be startled and bewildered. Shariputra reiterated his request and asked the Buddha, O Bhagavath, please explain it. Please explain it. Why is that so? Because there are hundreds of thousands of millions of billions of Asamkhya living beings who have seen former Buddhas. With astute faculties, they have penetrative wisdom to perceive. If they hear the teaching of the Buddha, they will definitely be able to reverentially believe. Thereupon Shariputra, wishing to reiterate his meaning, proclaimed in stanza. The king of the Dharma, the one of unrivaled deference. For us, please explain without hesitation. Among the immeasurable beings in the assembly, there are definitely those who will believe with reverence. Nevertheless, attempting to dissuade Shariputra, the Buddha said, if I were to explain this, all the worlds of the heavenly gods, humans, and asuras would be startled and bewildered. Those supercilious monks will fall into the great abyss of affliction. Meanwhile, the Bhagavath, wishing to reiterate his meaning, spoke in stanza. Stop, stop, say no more. Glorious is my Dharma, yet arduous it is to perceive. People of excessive arrogance who hear the Dharma will surely be unable to reverentially believe. At that moment, Shariputra once again pleaded with the Buddha, O Bhagavath, please explain it. Please explain it. Today in this assembly, there are hundreds of thousands of millions of billions of living beings, just like me, who have been transformed by the Buddha lifetime after lifetime. Surely, people such as these will have faith and reverence for you. In the long darkness of night, your teachings will bring them peace and an abundance of benefits, blessings, and bliss. Thereupon Shariputra, wishing to reiterate his meaning, proclaimed in stanzas. The human of unsurpassed honor, we entreat you to teach the foremost Dharma. As the eldest son of the Buddha, I entreat you to describe to us in different ways. Among the immeasurable beings in the assembly, there are those who will have reverent faith in your teachings. Lifetime after lifetime. The Buddha has taught and transformed many such beings. We press our palms together with a focused mind, eager to listen and accept the words of the Buddha. We entreat you to make distinctions in your explanation. For the 1,200 of us, as do the rest who seek to become Buddhas. And also for the sake of all living beings. Once we hear the Dharma, we will be exhilarated. Summary Overview, Chapter 2, Expedient Methods, Section 4, Paragraphs 1 to 15. The Buddha turns down Shariputra's first and second requests but accepts his third request to preach the Dharma. 5,000 disciples leave the assembly when Shakyamuni Buddha agrees to expound the Dharma. These disciples haughtily think that they have attained what they have not attained. The Buddha declares that there is only one Buddha vehicle, there is no second or a third vehicle. The two vehicles are the expedient methods used by the Buddha to lead people of varying capacities in accepting his teachings. He reiterates that genuine disciples of the Buddha are able to accept the teaching of the one vehicle and to conceive the aspiration for attaining supreme perfect enlightenment. Key messages. The one vehicle is the Dharma of Lotus that leads all living beings directly to attaining Buddhahood quickly. In other words, it is an expressway to achieving the highest spiritual state. Thereafter, the Bhagavat said to Shariputra, "Since you have earnestly repeated your request 3 times, how could I possibly refuse you? Now, listen carefully, ruminate conscientiously, and remember correctly, for I will explain the Dharma for you in various ways." Having said that, a total of 5,000 monks, nuns, lay male disciples, and lay female disciples rose from their seats, bowed to the Buddha, and departed. As a result of deep roots of negative karma and excessive arrogance, they thought they had attained what they had not attained and imagined they had realized what they had not realized. Hence, they chose to leave. Silent, the Bhagavat did not stop them. Then the Buddha said to Shariputra, "Now, this assembly is free of unwholesome leaves and branches, leaving only worthy fruit of pure and solid substance. O Shariputra! It is wonderful that all arrogant people are gone. Now, listen carefully. I shall expound it for you." Shariputra replied, "Excellent. O Bhagavat! We are eager to listen." The Buddha said to Shariputra, "Such a magnificent Dharma is only expounded by Buddhas Tathagatas during a period of time as rare as the blossoming of the Yudambra flower. O Shariputra! Believe and have faith in me, for the words of the Buddha are never false or empty. O Shariputra! All Buddhas adapt their teachings according to what is appropriate, but their intention is difficult to perceive. Why? Because this Dharma is beyond analytical reasoning and reflection to understand, only the Buddhas can grasp it. Therefore, I explain the Dharma using a myriad of expedient methods such as causes and conditions, metaphors, similes, parables, and various linguistic expressions. Why? Because all Buddha's Bhagavats appear in the world for one great reason alone. O Shariputra! What do I mean by, all Buddha's Bhagavats appear in the world for one great reason alone? Buddha's Bhagavats appear in the world because they wish to purify all living beings by opening and revealing the Buddha wisdom. They appear in the world because they wish to show all living beings the Buddha wisdom. They appear in the world because they wish to awaken all living beings to the Buddha wisdom. They appear in the world because they wish to lead all living beings to enter the path of the Buddha wisdom. O Shariputra! This is the one great reason alone for all Buddhas to appear in the world. The Buddha said to Shariputra, "The Buddhas Tathagatas only teach and transform bodhisattvas. All that they do is for one purpose, that is to show and awaken all living beings to the Buddha wisdom. O Shariputra! The Tathagata teach all living beings only by means of the one Buddha vehicle, there is no alternative vehicle, neither the second nor the third. O Shariputra! The teachings of the Buddhas in the 10 directions are identical. O Shariputra! All former Buddhas applied immeasurable expedient methods, causes and conditions, metaphors, similes, parables, and various linguistic expressions, to expound the various doctrines to living beings. All these doctrines are derived from the one Buddha vehicle. Living beings, having listened to the doctrines of the Buddha, will eventually attain the perfect wisdom. O Shariputra! All future Buddhas will also apply immeasurable expedient methods, causes and conditions, metaphors, similes, parables, and various linguistic expressions, to expound the various doctrines to living beings. All these doctrines are derived from the one Buddha vehicle. Living beings, having listened to the doctrines of the Buddha, will eventually attain the perfect wisdom. O Shariputra! All present Buddhas Bhagavats, dwelling in immeasurable hundreds of thousands of millions of billions of Buddhalands in the 10 directions, bestow an abundance of benefits, blessings, peace, and joy to living beings. The Buddhas also apply immeasurable expedient methods, causes and conditions, metaphors, similes, parables, and various linguistic expressions, to expound the various doctrines to living beings. Because all these doctrines are derived from the one Buddha vehicle, living beings, having listened to the doctrines of the Buddha, will eventually attain the perfect wisdom. O Shariputra! The Buddhas only teach and transform bodhisattvas. They do so because they wish to show all living beings the Buddha wisdom, to awaken all living beings to the Buddha wisdom, and to lead all living beings to enter the Buddha wisdom. O Shariputra! Now, I do likewise. Knowing the various desires and attachments deep in the hearts of living beings, I adapt my teachings according to their natures and capacities using the power of expedient methods, causes and conditions, metaphors, similes, parables, and various linguistic expressions, to expound the Dharma for them. O Shariputra! All these teachings are derived from the one Buddha vehicle that is the source of the perfect wisdom. O Shariputra! In the 10 directions of the universe, there is no second vehicle, let alone a third. O Shariputra! The Buddhas appear in the evil worlds of 5 defilements, namely the defilement of kulpa, the defilement of suffering, the defilement of living beings, the defilement of views, and the defilement of lifespan. O Shariputra! In the age of chaotic kulpa, the impurities run deep. Living beings, being stingy, greedy, and envious, will not be planting virtuous roots. Therefore, all Buddhas, by applying the power of expedient methods, make differentiations to the one Buddha vehicle by teaching it as though there are 3 different vehicles. O Shariputra! If any of my disciples should claim to be Arhats or Prayika Buddhas and yet are ignorant to the fact that all Buddhas only teach and transform bodhisattvas, then he is no disciple of mine. He is neither an Arhat nor a Prayika Buddha. O Shariputra! Moreover, if any of the monks or nuns should claim that they are already Arhats dwelling in their final rebirth and imagine themselves attaining final nirvana without having the aspiration to seek supreme perfect enlightenment, then you should know that they are people of excessive arrogance. Why? Because it is impossible for a true Arhat not to believe in this Dharma, unless there is no existing Buddha after the parinirvana of the Buddha. Why? Because if the Buddha has entered parinirvana, it will be even more difficult to find people who can accept, embrace, read, recite, and understand the meanings of the Dharma. But if they happen to meet other Buddhas, then they will refresh the determination to attain the way. O Shariputra! You should wholeheartedly accept and embrace the words of the Buddha with faith and understanding. The words of all Buddha Tathagata are the truth. There are no alternative vehicles, only the one Buddha vehicle. Thereupon, the Bhagavat, wishing to reiterate his meaning, proclaimed in stanzas. Summary Overview, Chapter 2, Expedient Methods, Section 5, Paragraphs 1 to 100. Shakyamuni Buddha speaks in stanzas to further illustrate the many examples of expedient methods in attaining Buddhahood indirectly. Monks and nuns, who are exceedingly arrogant. Lay male disciples who are self-important. Lay female disciples who are lacking of faith. These 4 groups of people are about 5,000 of them. Failing to see their own dharmas. Failing to observe the precepts with discipline. They try to gloss over their imperfections. Because of the Buddha's dignity and virtue. These people of lesser wisdom, the chaff among the assembly, have already departed. Such people of meager blessings and virtues are incapable of accepting the Dharma. The assembly comprises only the fruit of solid substance, free from extraneous branches or leaves. O Shariputra, listen carefully. The Dharma attained by all Buddhas is being expounded to living beings through the infinite power of expedient methods. The thoughts in the minds of living beings, their diverse actions and ways of practice, their slew of desires and natures, their virtues and vices accumulated in past lifetimes. The Buddha, having known all these, uses causal reasoning, metaphors, similes, parables, and many linguistics expressions to teach, bringing joy and happiness to all. The Buddha teaches the sutras through stories of his disciples' past lives or stories of his former lives, deeds, or tales. He also explains via the reasoning of causes and conditions, similes, parables, metaphors, and poetic verses, as well as dialogues and discourses, greedily attached to birth and death. Those people of dull capacities, who are delighted with inferior teachings, have not been able to practice the profoundly wonderful path in the presence of immeasurable Buddhas. For these people who are being tormented by suffering, I teach them the nirvana. I have devised the expedient methods in order to lead them to enter the Buddha wisdom. Until now, I have never mentioned that all of you will certainly attain Buddhahood. I did not expound the Dharma because the time was immature. Now is the right time for me to decisively expound the great vehicle. My Dharma consists of 9 divisions, which I will teach flexibly to suit the needs of living beings. I teach all these sutras because they are the foundations of Mahayana. Children of the Buddhas with pure hearts, soft and gentle but sharp and keen, have already practiced the profoundly magnificent path. In the abodes of immeasurable Buddhas, I expound the great vehicle sutra. For the children of the Buddhas, I predict that these people will attain Buddhahood in their future lifetimes. They are mindful of the Buddha deep in their hearts, and observe the pure precepts rigorously. When they hear their attainment of Buddhahood, immense joys fill their entire bodies. Knowing their intentions and actions, the Buddha expounds the great vehicle for them. When Shravakas and Bodhisattvas hear the Dharma I expound, even if it is only a single verse, they will undoubtedly attain Buddhahood. Only the Dharma of one vehicle exists in the Buddha lands everywhere in the 10 directions. There is no second or third vehicle, unless the Buddha expounds via expedient methods. The Buddha uses provisional names in order to lead all living beings. The sole reason for the advent of the Buddhas in the world is to teach the Buddha wisdom. The one vehicle is the truth, while the other 2 are not. Eventually, I will not use the inferior vehicles to save and liberate all living beings. The Buddha abides in the great vehicle, through which he attains the Dharma. Adorned by the strength of meditation and wisdom, he brings deliverance for all. I myself have actualized the unsurpassed way, the way of the great vehicle, the Dharma of equality. If I were to use the inferior vehicles to transform even one person, I would be relegated to stinginess and greed, which is completely unacceptable. If a person faithfully takes refuge in the Buddha, Tathagata will not deceive this person, much less be greedy or envious, for he has extinguished all inherent evils. As such, only Buddhas in the universe are the ones who have no fear. I use my glorious body form to illuminate all the worlds brilliantly, revered by immeasurable living beings. I teach them the seal of truth in the aspects of all phenomena. O Shariputra! You should know that I have originally taken a vow. That is to make all living beings equal to me, without any differences. Now my long-cherished wish has already been fulfilled. I have already transformed all living beings, leading them to enter the Buddha way. Whenever I meet living beings, I teach them the Buddha way equally. Yet, those lacking of wisdom will be confused. Hence they will not accept my teaching. I understand such living beings who have never developed virtuous roots, firmly attached to the 5 desires. Their intense obsession to passion results in affliction. As a result of their various desires, they fall into the 3 evil paths, wandering in the cycle of the 6 lower realms. They undergo tormenting agonies and bitter pains. First, they will become an embryo and then a fetus. They will always continue to grow, lifetime after lifetime. Those people lacking of virtues or blessings will be bound by a host of suffering, having entered into the jungle of erroneous views, such as the views of existence or non-existence. They will attach to these views, which are 62 of them in total, deeply entrenched in the false doctrines. They will cling on to them, refusing to relinquish. Arrogant and conceited, fawning and insincere. They will not hear the name of the Buddha, nor will they hear the true Dharma. For thousands of millions of billions of kalpas, people such as these are difficult to rescue. O Shariputra! That is why, for these people I will teach using expedient methods, to show them the nirvana, so as to end all paths of bitter suffering. Although I teach nirvana, that is not the true way to extinction. All realities, originally and naturally, possess the eternal aspect of quiescence, cessation, and dormancy. If the children of the Buddhas practice correctly, they will attain Buddhahood in their next lifetimes. I use the power of expedient methods to open and show the 3 vehicles of the Dharma. But all Bhagavats only teach the Dharma of one vehicle. Today, in this great congregation, all of you should eliminate doubt and confusion. For the words of all Buddhas are identical. There are not 2 but one and only vehicle. Innumerable kalpas in the remote past, there were immeasurable Buddhas who had entered parinirvana. Hundreds of thousands of millions of billions of infinite numbers of them. The Bhagavats apply a variety of methods, such as causal explanation, parables, similes, metaphors, and other innumerable powers of expedient methods, to teach and illustrate the various aspects of the Dharma. All Bhagavats only teach the Dharma of one vehicle, to transform inestimable living beings, so as to lead them to the Buddha way. All other lords of great sages, who understand desires deep in the heart of living beings, such as heavenly gods and humans, throughout the worlds in the universe, have also applied different expedient methods to help them awaken to the meanings of the first and foremost Dharma. If there are living beings who have encountered many former Buddhas, upon hearing the Dharma, they practice generosity, morality, forbearance, diligence, meditation, and wisdom, thus cultivating an abundance of blessings and insight. These people have already attained Buddhahood after the parinirvana of the Buddhas. If there are people who are kind-hearted, gentle, and charitable, all these living beings have already attained Buddhahood after the parinirvana of the Buddhas. People who wish to give offerings to the relics, build millions of billions of various pagodas, made of gold, silver, or glass, seashells or agates, rose crystals, lapis lazuli, or pearls, so as to extensively decorate various pagodas with purity. For the enshrinement of relics. Some construct temples made of stone, sandalwood, or aloe, Hovenia or any other types of materials, such as brick, tile, clay, earth, and so forth. If there are people who live in the wilderness and build a temple for the Buddha using the earth, or even children who, in their play, gather sands to build a Buddha tower, these people have already attained Buddhahood. If there are people who, for the sake of the Buddha, create images and forms, through carving, engraving, and sculpturing into statues, they have already attained Buddhahood. Some use the 7 treasures, such as precious metals, red and white copper, pewter, lead, or tin, iron, wood, or clay. Some use clothes soaked in resin or paint to adorn the Buddha's images. These people have already attained Buddhahood. Some draw and paint the Buddha's images that are adorned with forms of 100 blessings, irrespective of whether it is a self-painting or by commission. They have already attained Buddhahood. Even if little children in their play use grasses or reeds or fingernails to draw an image of a Buddha, these people will gradually accumulate merits and virtues. Endowed with hearts of great compassion, they have already become Buddhas, who are capable of transforming bodhisattvas and liberating immeasurable living beings. If there are people who visit pagodas or temples, and upon seeing precious statues or painted images, give offerings such as flowers, incense, or flags, with hearts of reverence. If they should request others to perform music, by beating drum, blowing horn or conch shell, or playing end-blown flute, bamboo flute, zither, or harp, lute, cymbal, or gong, all these wonderful types of music are sincerely given as offerings for worship. If there are people with joyful hearts who sing songs to praise the Buddha's virtues, even if they sing softly, they have already attained Buddhahood. If there are people with troubled minds who should use only one single flower to give offerings to the painted images, they will, in time, meet innumerable Buddhas. If there are people who bow in obeisance, or press their palms together, or raise their single hand, or merely give a slight nod of the head, by giving such expressions of respect to the statue, they will, in time, meet immeasurable Buddhas. They will naturally attain the unsurpassed way, and widely save countless living beings, leading them to enter nirvana of no remainder. Like the fire being extinguished when the firewood is exhausted. If there are people with troubled minds who enter the pagodas or temples and utter but one single phrase of devotion, homage to the Buddha, they have already attained Buddhahood. If there are people who hear this teaching from one of the present or former Buddhas, or the Buddhas who have entered parinirvana, they have already attained Buddhahood. The Bhagavats in the future are immeasurable in numbers. All these Tathagatas will likewise employ the expedient methods to preach the Dharma. All the Tathagatas deliver and emancipate all living beings through innumerable expedient methods, so as to lead them to enter the perfect Buddha wisdom. If there are people who hear the Dharma, none of them will fail to become Buddhas. The original vow of the Buddhas is to enable all living beings to attain Buddhahood, the same path that I myself have walked. All the Buddhas in the future, despite their teaching of hundreds of millions of billions of innumerable doctrines, are in truth derived from the one vehicle. The Buddhas, the most honorable among humans, understand that nothing in the universe has an independent existence. and that the Buddha seeds arise interdependently via a cause. For that reason, they teach the one vehicle. The teachers have achieved awakening at the sanctuary of enlightenment. That all phenomena is part of the everlasting Dharma. That all characteristics in the universe are eternally enduring, consistent, and permanent. But choose to expound the Dharma using the expedient methods worshipped by heavenly gods and humans. The present Buddhas in the 10 directions, as numerous as the Ganges' sands, have appeared in this world now. To expound the Dharma in such a way as well, in order to bring peace and ease to all living beings. They know that parinirvana is the foremost, but choose to use the power of expedient methods to reveal the diverse pathways of enlightenment. The truth is, all ways are derived from the Buddha vehicle. Buddhas, knowing the behaviors of living beings, their thoughts and intentions deep in their hearts, their past actions, their desires, natures, and levels of diligence, their capacities, both sharp or dull, choose to apply the various expedient methods, such as causal explanation, parables, metaphors, similes, and linguistics expressions, to skillfully and flexibly teach, according to different individuals and situations. Now, I teach in the same manner. For the peace and ease of living beings, I apply diverse doctrines and methods to declare and reveal the Buddha way. Through the power of my wisdom, I understand the natures and desires of living beings. Hence, I use the expedient methods to skillfully illustrate various doctrines, so as to bring joy and delight to them. O Shariputra, you should know that, through the eyes of a Buddha, I have witnessed living beings in the 6 realms, impoverished, lacking of good fortune and wisdom. They are trapped in the perilous cycles of birth and death, suffering continuously from the never-ending misery, deeply attached to the desires of the 5 senses. Like a bull lovingly chasing its own tail, they are blinded by greed and lust, unable to see the truth. They do not seek the Buddha and his mighty power, nor do they seek the Dharma that could bring an end to their suffering. Delving deep into misleading views, they try to eradicate suffering through suffering. For the sake of all living beings, I summon up the heart of great compassion and mercy. When I first sat at the sanctuary of enlightenment, observing the trees and walking around them, for 21 days, I contemplated the matter as such. The wisdom I have attained is the foremost in exquisite magnificence. Yet the capacities of living beings are dull, blinded by addiction and obsession to pleasures. How can I save all these people? At that time, King Brahma, Heavenly Lord Chakra, for heavenly kings who protect the universe, Heavenly God of great freedom, and all other heavenly gods, together with their hundreds of millions of billions of followers, respectfully pressed their palms and bowed with obeisance, to entreat me to turn the Dharma wheel. Immediately I pondered. If I only teach about praising the Buddha vehicle, the living beings, mired in suffering, will not be able to believe the Dharma. Because they reject and fail to have faith in the Dharma, they will fall into the 3 evil paths. In that case, I might as well not teach the Dharma, and quickly enter nirvana. Then I thought of the power of expedient methods, used by the Buddhas in the past. The way I have attained should also be expounded as 3 vehicles. After these contemplations, the Buddhas in the 10 directions appeared to encourage me by speaking in their Brahma voices. Excellent, O Shakyamuni, the foremost teacher and mentor. You have attained the unsurpassed Dharma by following the footsteps of all other Buddhas, who use the power of expedient methods to teach. all of us have obtained as well. The foremost and most marvelous Dharma. For all living beings. We create differentiations. To expound the Dharma in 3 vehicles. People of lesser wisdom were delighted in inferior teachings. As they do not believe that they themselves can become Buddhas. Therefore, expedient methods are used to make distinctions in the explanation of different consequences. Although we teach using 3 vehicles, it is only for the sake of teaching bodhisattvas. O Shariputra! You should know that. When I heard the roar of the holy lions, I chanted, homage to all Buddhas, with my splendidly pure and sonorous voice. Then I pondered. Since I have been born in the evil age of defilement, at the behest of other Buddhas, I too must follow their examples. Having finished the contemplation, I immediately set out for Varanasi. The aspect of natural cessation is inherent in all realities. It cannot be easily expressed in words. Hence, expedient methods are used to teach the 5 ascetics. This is known as turning the Dharma wheel. Then I make distinctions by using words such as Nirvana, Arhat, Dharma, or Sangha. Ever since the infinite kalpas, I would usually teach as such. I will praise and reveal the teaching of Nirvana. To end the pains of birth and death forever. O Shariputra! You should know that. I have seen children of the Buddhas. Immeasurable thousands of millions of billions of them. Seeking the Buddha way with great aspirations. All of them, with reverent minds, arrive at the abode of the Buddha. To hear the Dharma expounded through the expedient methods. By the former Buddhas. Then I pondered as such. The purpose for the advent of the Buddha is to teach the Buddha wisdom. Now is the perfect time to do so. O Shariputra! You should know that. Those with dull intellect and inferior wisdom, who are egotistical and judgmental, based on superficial outward appearances, will not be able to have faith in the Dharma. Today, with elation and valiance, in the presence of bodhisattvas, I shall completely discard the expedient methods and openly expound only the unsurpassed way. Once the bodhisattvas hear the Dharma, their nets of doubts will be removed. The 1200 arhats will also become Buddhas, using the same way as the Buddhas of 3 existences, to expound the Dharma. Today I shall do likewise. To expound the Dharma without making any distinctions. The birth of a Buddha is extremely rare and difficult to come by. Even if he appears in this world, it is challenging for him to expound the Dharma. Throughout the immeasurable and innumerable kalpas, it is difficult for one to hear the Dharma. People who are capable of understanding the Dharma are equally hard to find. It is just like how the Udambara flower, though adored and rejoiced by all, is rare among the heavenly gods and humans, as it appears only once in a very long time. If there are those who hear the Dharma and praise it delightfully, even if it is only one word of praise, these people have already given offerings to the Buddhas in the 3 existences. They are very rare indeed. Rarer than the Udambara flower. All of you have no doubts at all. I, being the king of the Dharma, declare to the great assembly, I use only the path of the one vehicle to teach and transform bodhisattvas. I have no Shravakas as disciples. Shariputra and the rest of the Shravakas and bodhisattvas should understand that this magnificent Dharma is the secret essence of all Buddhas. During the evil age of 5 impediments, those who are addicted to pleasures and desires, all these living beings will not seek the Buddha way eventually. If these evil persons in ages to come were to hear the Buddha expounding the one vehicle, they would be confused and unwilling to believe or accept. Rejecting the Dharma, they will fall into the evil paths. Those who are repentant and pure, and aspire to seek the Buddha way, these people will widely praise the way of one vehicle. O Shariputra, you should know that the Dharma of all Buddhas is as such. They use millions of billions of expedient methods to teach according to the capacities of living beings. Those who do not learn will fail to understand it. Since all of you are awakened to the fact that all Buddhas, the teachers of the worlds, apply the expedient methods to teach the Dharma, have no further doubts and let your hearts be filled with immense joy. For you know you will also become Buddhas.